mother-in-law issues. Oh my goodness. We finally are doing this show. How many emails do we get about this mother-in-law issue? We have a game changer strategies for you today. Like whatever's going on in your relationship with your mother-in-law right now, stay tuned because you're going to be on the other side of it after this show. Start typing in your questions. This is Leah Richheimer for the Ladies Talk Show. We'll see you in a minute. Okay, mother-in-law questions. I'm expecting you guys to type in right now. Start typing. I don't hear the clicking. Go ahead, guys. Type in your questions. So we're going to get right to it right now. We're going to start with the very first question, and this is going to be a game changer, just so you see. Okay, Sari, what is the first question?
Okay. I'm expecting my third child. My in-laws are planning to visit after the baby is born to help out, but there are no help at all. They hardly lift a finger, make all kinds of requests for coffee.
You're reading way too fast. I can't.
Oh, I'm sorry. Usually you say it should go fast because the questions are so many things. Okay, I'm sorry. So the in-laws want to come after she has the baby to help out, in quotes. They hardly lift a finger, and they make all kinds of requests, like coffee at odd hours. They complain about everything. She definitely doesn't want them, but her husband thinks she's not being fair. It's still a few months away, but their visit is already stressing her out, and she's pregnant. What can she do?
Okay, you hear that, lady? So the in-laws are coming for her third baby. Is that what you said? Her third baby?
Yes, for her third child.
Her third child, and she's totally stressed out. Her husband doesn't get it. What can she do? Okay, so type in if you have any answers or if you have similar things. We want a thumbs up. Here's the situation. This is a little bit difficult. It's a little complicated by the fact that this woman is pregnant. So what happens when you're pregnant, Sarit? You should know this. Your brain out the window. Okay. So
what do you mean? You're cranky, you're miserable, you scream at everyone.
Hello. Right. And but the complaining, it's like, I think the day you fall pregnant, you get a big badge on you that says, I can complain. I am legally required to complain all day long. Okay. No, if you aren't like this, good on you. But for the rest of us, okay. So here's the situation. You're not really capable at this moment of emotionally being able to handle it well, or be able to have a conversation with your husband that's going to go particularly well, unless you really, really, really use a lot of, oops, what's going on here? Oh yeah, we've got the mask. I had put your mask on, but most likely put your duct tape on. Just calm down. And here's the solution. Every wife has to know, bulletproof, has to know that she has priority before her mother-in-law, her father-in-law, anybody else on the planet, his family, his best friend. The wife has to have the confidence and the assurance that she's his number one priority, or there is constant friction. And here's the thing. It seems like, well, okay, yeah, that's really good for the wife. But no, you have to understand it's good for the husband. It's the only way that so listen, here's the problem. It's a problem that the men have that needs to be solved. And I'm talking to the women. Okay. So okay, good luck with that, Leah. So here's the thing. Because if I was talking to the men, I'd say, hello, listen to this. This is Genesis 2:24. Okay. Therefore, a man shall leave his father and his mother and cleave to his wife, and they shall become one flesh. There's no shade of gray there. It doesn't say sometimes he should leave his parents and sometimes be with his, wife. No. It says he shall leave his parents. That's end of story. No shade of gray. It's absolutely black and white. So if you're a man, then you need to follow that and you need to put your wife first in front of everything. If you're a woman and your husband isn't doing that, which I hear all the time, okay, is the man wrong? Yeah, he is. But you, as the wife, in the relationship, as the spouse, you need to be able to get that information to him in the kindest possible. Meaning It's you can't it says in the Torah you need to do this and God said and no, this isn't getting a baseball bat and bonking him over the head. This is you figuring out a way, and we'll go over that. That's what you're going to learn today. One of the things is exactly how to express it to your husband so that he can hear it and he can act upon it. But it starts with a woman claiming, like, not feeling embarrassed or selfish or wrong, or like, wait a minute, Leah, isn't there a thing, honor your parents? I mean, that's like that's one of the 10 commandments. Are you crazy? You've got to honor your parents. Yes, you can still do that, but this is the most important thing. And if there's anything you learn today, it's that you need to claim your right to what you're entitled to. And what every woman is entitled to is to be the absolute number one priority, superseding all other relationships of her husband. She needs it. She's entitled to it. She can demand it. She's got to do it with kindness and finesse. Otherwise, it's just going to backfire and whatever. But even if it does backfire, it's still her right. And if she doesn't have that, there will always be friction, not just with her mother-in-law, but with her husband and with everybody else in her life. She has to feel that she is the number one. Okay. You with me?
Yes. What do you mean? Yes. you just basically said, like, dump the in-laws. No, I'm joking.
No, not dump the in-laws, but
put the in-laws out the door. You are queen.
You are queen. But here's the thing. Women think, there's this friction between the mother-in-law and the daughter-in-law. Okay. And this, we know from our sources, from 3,000-year-old, it says there will be friction. Where is that? The source of that friction is the competition and the confusion and the gray shade of gray. When there's a shade of gray, that's where the wars start. That's where the mother-in-law says, oh, the wife comes home and she puts some fish on the counter. And the mother-in-law says, we had fish a few nights ago. Let's have spaghetti. And the husband says, oh, that sounds good. No, no. If the wife says fish and the mother-in-law says spaghetti, the family has fish. End of story. There is no other second opinions. There's no other choices. You're having fish. Now, here's what happens when the husband gives that privilege to his wife, not a privilege, a requirement. When he fulfills that requirement to cleave to his wife in front of his parents, when he does that, then it allows her, after 3 months, 6 months, 5 years of being number one, now it can bring out her best self, and she can be generous and say, all right, Ma, if you want spaghetti, we'll have spaghetti. But until he makes that clear, until he makes that in his actions, words, and thoughts, that she is the number one ahead of everybody else, she cannot have the strength to do that. And she feels like, oh, I'm being selfish, or I'm being, why do I feel so upset at my mother-in-law poking around in my kitchen? Why am I so annoyed that he doesn't get me? And he keeps saying, oh, I'm being selfish, or I'm being controlling. And why can't I just get along with his mother-in-law? No. It starts with the husband cleaving to his wife and putting his wife in front. And you can ask any rabbi around the planet Earth. They will all say the same thing. The wife comes first, then the mother-in-law. And if this can't be worked out, the mother-in-law is, that relationship is strained and she's distanced, not the wife. There are many, unfortunately, that marriages break up because the mother-in-law doesn't know her place. The son-in-law doesn't know his place. He doesn't understand to put his wife first. And the wife feels too weak to say anything, or she says something and she says it the wrong way. We're going to go over how to say it the right way. She says something and it isn't heard, and the marriage is broken up. And God forbid, I hope it never happens again. But if people understood how crucial this is in a marriage relationship, that's a game changer. Okay, let's go to question number 2.
Before we do the next question, somebody was asking, so you said that the husband needs to cling to his wife,
right?
And obviously whatever they want, the wife wants whatever.
Not cling. A cling is good. Cleave. It says cleave. I don't know what. Whatever. Okay. Cling is also good. Okay.
So to cling to his wife.
Yeah.
The question is that how do we tell that to our husband?
Yeah. Right. Okay. So,
You know?
well, I was going to answer that after a few questions. Or should I answer that right now?
That was actually a question that somebody
Oh,
asked
it's
me.
great question. I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to walk you through and hold your hand through it because it's complicated. It's got to be done well, but done well, the husband will get it. You know why? Because deep down in his soul, he knows it's the right thing. It's right out of the Torah. There's no like shade of gray. It's very black and white. So he might resist, and he might, that's like this on the superficial issue. He might have, well, wait a minute, you know, but deep down, you have to reach from your heart into his heart, and he'll get it. It might take him practice. It might take him work. It might take gentle reminders. We'll get to that in a second. Okay.
Yeah, actually, Debbie from Facebook just commented. She says she loves the show, but she'd like to know who's telling this all to the men.
No joke. So why would Hashem make that so like across the board? Like they don't know. Like I mean, every husband that nobody knows this. So it's up to us. Like if we try to, I tried this one time. I once had a huge group. I think there were 52 women. It was a live class. It was whatever, and they begged me for a man's class. And I'm like, no, wait. Our Masorah is that all blessing comes from from God through the husband to the wife. We're the receivers. Whatever. If we receive, our husband will give. End of story. That's it. You don't need the husband. It's good if he you can figure out how to cajole him, whatever. They begged me. Okay, fine. I set up a class. I got a guy that, big, really, really wise man, a rabbi, Talmud Chacham, and he gave a class. Do you know how many out of 52 husbands showed up? And I think it was 14 confirmations. Yes, I will be there. And I think 3 showed up. It was so embarrassing. Men are just like, woo, so that's good luck with that, but if a woman does this right, her relationship with her husband will be closer. He will feel it. And then all of the strife and the competition between a mother-in-law, which is naturally there between a mother-in-law and a daughter-in-law. The mother-in-law feels like she stole her baby. And the daughter feels like, why is he taking, I picked the blue car. And the mother-in-law says, no, blue gets more, gets dirtier faster. Now I have a white car. Because of what she said, I want a blue car. I'm making a stupid, idiotic example, but that's not the way it should be. Not by like the husband, if he were taking his wife's opinion over hers, this is a big, big problem. Okay, so should I?
Question number 2.
Well, or should I just go through how a woman gets her husband? Go with 2. Let's keep suspense. Okay, so go with number 2.
You'll get that. But know that that's the question everyone wants to know.
Yeah, okay, fine.
So number 2 is my children are grown now, but while I was in the midst of child rearing, we struggled financially and my in-laws did not help us. Now my in-laws are having their own financial difficulties and they expect us to help them. We're not well off and I frankly don't have any desire to help them now that the tables are turned. My husband is stuck. While he wants to help his parents, he understands how I feel. What is my obligation?
Wow. Okay. This is a very heavy one. I don't know if you guys there were a lot of details here. Basically, when they were struggling, the parents didn't help them financially. And now the parents are helping and their kids, the daughter and her husband are better off than the parents are. And they, feel obligated to help. So for sure, this is a question for your local Orthodox rabbi, your clergy person, your somebody of a stature in your lives that you can turn to and ask, outside of yourself, because this could be a big battle between the husband and the wife about what the right thing to do is. And it really needs bigger, broader picture. It needs someone who's in the forest and you guys are in the trees. No question about it. We're in the trees of our own, these big issues like this. So you got to ask somebody in the forest. So that's number 1. However, I have a gut feeling that if she's doing it for payback reasons, meaning, then that's forbidden. It's forbidden to like, how do you translate nakama?
Revenge.
Revenge, yeah, it's to get revenge on somebody. Like if you were to loan your vacuum to somebody and they banged it all up, and they banged it up and then returned it back to you, and then then you couldn't. And they asked you again.
Or you went to your neighbor and asked her if you could borrow a vacuum, and she said no, and then she comes to you like a day later and asks you to borrow sugar, and you're like, no, you didn't give me your vacuum, so I'm not giving you my
That's it. Okay, exactly right. Okay, fine. Yes, and then you don't have to get all these laws of damages, which I can't wrap my head around. But yeah, there's a perfect example. That's called revenge. You're not allowed to do that. So she said no to the vacuum. She comes to you for sugar. You're like, here's the sugar, and do it with a smile on your face if you can. Okay, fine. Maybe text her and don't answer the door. No, joking. But in any case, so if you were doing this because of revenge on her, that you can't do. And I have a feeling a rabbi is going to tell you you got to do it anyway. You can't do that. That's not appropriate. It's not right. However, if you were doing it because of financial constraints and, let's say you're on a tight budget, and I once asked a shayla for a question for somebody to a rabbi, and the question was, don't take this as a blanket, but it just gives you sort of a feel for it, that a parent needed financial help, and they were giving financial help. They didn't have this whole issue of past history, but they were giving financial help, but it meant that their own family and kids couldn't take a vacation. And the answer was no, it's your time. They had their time. You need to take a vacation. If you can take a vacation and also give them financial help, that is praiseworthy and a good thing to do. And please don't take this as, I'm not a rabbi, so ask your own questions on this, but it just gives you a flavor of how this would work. So if she doesn't want to pay financially because she wouldn't do it for her own parents, or she wouldn't do it for her sister or a brother or somebody that they were very close with, then she shouldn't, then she probably wouldn't be obligated. That's my vague answer. Those are the kinds of things and details you need to share with a rabbi, but that's definitely for a rabbi question. Okay, go on to question number 3.
My mother-in-law doesn't approve of the way we raise our kids. My husband does not want to be confrontational with her, so he says to just ignore it, but it drives me crazy.
Yeah, this is so bad, so bad. So actually, I'm going to do a timeout and do the rules for mother-in-laws in case you're a mother-in-law, and the rules for daughter-in-law in case you're a daughter-in-law. Okay, so because this is like bulletproof, that the husband, it's bad enough that the mother-in-law is telling her, what did you say she was doing? She was
telling her how to raise her kids.
How to raise the kids. Really bad, really, really bad. This is a case of needing duct tape. If you don't like pink, get purple, get black, get gray, whatever. Get yourself some duct tape. This is the time to not say a word to your kid. And the husband should be totally supporting his wife and on her team with this. So if you said he wasn't, and it drives her crazy, but her husband he doesn't want conflict.
Confrontational. He's just like, ignore her. So she says the kids should be in bed now. Just nod your head and say, okay, Ma, and then do what you want.
Right. So I'm giving every woman permission here that your husband has to side with you. Has to. There's no shade of gray here. I know women feel selfish and they feel like, well, I'm so controlling, and well, let him have a good relationship with his mom, or whatever they rationalizations they come up in their head is the only thing is he needs to side with you no matter what. And I'll tell you how to get there. Maybe we'll go there earlier than later. Okay, here's the thing though. I'm going to give you rules of mother-in-law. You're a mother-in-law. First rule, constant compliments. Constant. Don't slow them down. They never hear enough. Don't stop. For one time, compliment them on their hair. Next time, compliment them on a way they have. Oh, that was so nice of you. Another time, get a book on complimenting. Write down 1,000 compliments and then dole them out one at a time. Whatever you have to do. If you're not a complimenting person, start now. This is the way to closeness with your daughter-in-law and your son-in-law. And the thing, it's so crucial, because you want closeness to them. You want closeness to their kids, to their grandkids. They're great. You want a close family. It's through compliments. And that also is number one rule for daughters-in-law. Compliment your mother-in-law. Say, oh, that was so nice of you to wish me my birthday 2 weeks late. You know what I mean? Whatever, she might mess up it. Find something, hunt it out. Okay, rules for mother-in-law. Number one is constant compliments. Number two is no advice ever. I'm going to say it again in case you didn't hear. You writing this down a lot? No advice ever. If they even ask your advice, say, I'm sure you can figure it out. Avoid this at all costs, because whatever you say is going to ring in their head for forever. And I know there's some people say, oh, I mean, there were some people were talking to me and they said, no, well, it's okay. It's not, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. So if you say, don't you think the kids, instead of saying, the kids need a sweater, it's really cold outside, right? Instead of saying it that way, and you say, oh, what do you think about the idea of putting this sweater on? No, no. If the kid gets a cold, I mean, look, there's safety issues. Okay, if they're letting the kid unbuckle their thing and hang out the window, hang out the window with a car, okay, so maybe you have to figure out how to couch it nicely. But for the most part, unless it's safety issue, which I would shy away from that that's their business. But if it's harsh, then you can say something and, say it very kindly, say, I want to mention something. I'm so sorry. Give them 10 compliments, then saying, oh, by the way, I also wanted to mention that, you shouldn't unbuckle the seat and let your kid hang out the car window. Something, I don't think that's the safest thing, whatever. And then give them 10 more compliments. Maybe. But as a mother-in-law, just don't say it. Don't say, you're thinking it. And sometimes steam can come out of your ear. Go into the bathroom and pat yourself down with water, do something, walk out of the room, say, oh, I completely forgot. I had an appointment. I've got to run, whatever it is, get yourself out of the situation, because any advice you give is not welcome. Now, you might have a daughter-in-law or a daughter or a son-in-law. So you might have who constantly ask your advice. Like, there are people who are insecure and they're like, what do you think I should do? If we go to the wedding early, then we'll miss the thing. And if the babysitter coming in and they're asking your advice about a million things, they're constantly on the phone checking, what should I do? That's a wonderful feeling of closeness. I still would shy away. I would say, I don't want to be the kind of person that's always telling you what to do. I'd love to give you advice, but I always feel like, a relationship's better, a relationship's better if I'm not hovering over you, making all your decisions. So you have to just sort of pace it out. You might be a different type of person who loves to give advice or gives really good advice, or you might have a daughter-in-law who really wants that advice. So you have to play with it. But as a general rule, don't ever give advice without being asked. And if you're asked, try and sidestep it and bounce away. Third point is respect boundaries of your kids. You're calling what's happening? What's new? Whatever. And don't you hate that whenever I don't know if anybody's ever been on a phone call with somebody you don't want to be talking to. It's like, it's not engendering closeness. If you don't know what those boundaries are, ask. Say, I often, when I get home from work, I often call you, my daughter-in-law, to see what you're making for dinner, because it gives me ideas. But it suddenly dawned on me, is that a good time for you? Maybe I should call before the kids get home, or maybe we can chat instead of chatting every day or chatting once a week or once a month. Maybe we should chat, what works for you, dear? She'll be like, oh, you know what I mean? Like, you're giving her that, space to feel her out, not what works for you, but what works for her. 3 rules for daughter-in-law. Number 1, constant compliments, as we said. Okay. Number 2 is show appreciation. So this is something that is kind of hard. It was hard for me, especially when my kids were really young. We get like a Rosh Hashanah basket of flowers, and I like 2 days later, oh my gosh, I forgot to say thank you, whatever. And my mother-in-law is so gracious or whatever, but I'm sure there were times when she's like, it's 2 days later, it's 3 days later, we didn't get a thank you, so be better than I was. But when I did express my appreciation, I was effusive. Like, I was like, you don't even know how wonderful it was. I had, my mother-in-law helped me with her housekeeper came, whatever, when I was going through a tough time. It was beyond, like, it was like exactly what I needed. It's like I had a lot of kids under a certain age, and I was just like, I didn't even know I was frazzled. And my mother-in-law, sent over a couple times a week, and it just saved me. It saved me in a tough time. And I, for literally 20 years after, whatever, a long time after, I thanked her for it, because it saved me at a time. So that appreciation, especially very, very heartfelt, makes a world of difference. The last thing for a daughter-in-law is to connect regularly. So I know a lot of mother-in-laws like, the mother-in-law is like, should I call? She wants to have boundaries, but she doesn't know where to put them. And so weeks can go by and they don't speak, or, on some cases, sometimes it's even worse if they're overseas or whatever. But as a daughter-in-law, it's almost your responsibility, because she won't want to be a burden to you unless she does or is insensitive to that fact and calls all the time. And, that causes friction. But it's better if it's left to the daughter-in-law to initiate that as her responsibility. So those are the tools. Okay, let's go to the next question. And then we're going to come right after that question. We're going to talk about how to talk to you about your husband. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so my mother-in-law lives in the same city as we do.
Okay.
We gave her the key to our home in case there's an emergency. The problem is she lets herself in whenever she visits without calling or knocking. She got offended when I explained that this is a violation to our privacy. My husband thinks I'm being too harsh with her, as she is a widow, but it makes me feel like I don't have any sacred space to call my own.
Wow. So, boy, okay, so a couple of things here. The widow card, playing the widow card, if your mother-in-law, maybe you're not playing it, maybe the son-in-law feels it or whatever. There is no, it says, I'm going to read it exactly. Therefore, a man shall leave his father and his mother and cleave to his wife, and they shall become one flesh. It doesn't say until his mother becomes a widow and then she becomes first, or she's priority. It doesn't say that. I'm sorry to say. Okay. We got to talk turkey here. Okay. Even so, even that he wants to give her love and attention, if it takes away from his loyalty to his wife and that bond with his wife, he cannot do it. He doesn't have a choice. It's not like, oh, what should I do? No. It's absolutely clear. He needs to cleave to his wife even more. Her comfort is most important. And I just want to tell you, just in case you don't know, if your father, and let's say your father, is an extremely honorable man and he's sitting at the head of the table and the rest of the family is there and you're serving and you bring in a chicken soup. So, oh my goodness, do you give it to your dad or do you give it to your husband first? We need a quiz, right? Okay, so that's a question. What does Jewish law say who you need to serve first? The answer, and we need like a big flashy thing, the answer is you serve your husband first. It's mind-boggling. I thought you're supposed to honor your parents. I thought you were supposed to, respect age and age before, whatever. Like, are you joking? This is the halachic answer. Check with your local Orthodox Rav, whatever. You can ask about this, but this is the answer you'll get, is that you serve your husband first. Now, if your husband says, please serve daddy first, fine. He can give in and let you do that, but
what happens if you have your child serve, meaning, because this is what I've done to get out of it, and I don't know if it's right. Okay. But I have my daughter come in and then we're both serving at the same time, and I make sure that she goes over to
the grandfather.
Exactly, so that they both get it at the same time.
Perfect solution. Okay. Perfect solution. But when in doubt, your husband comes first. Absolutely. This is what God himself has commanded us in the Torah. This is what he wants from you. Take care of your husband first. So by that token, the same thing is true with the husband in terms of taking care of his wife and taking his wife as the top thing. So wait, I'm just forgetting the question. What was the question? Oh, it was about the key. Okay.
Yeah, that's the mother-in-law.
Okay, so hello. That is for sure a question for a rabbi of how to handle. I mean, maybe it's too personal, whatever. I mean, the answer is, for safety reasons, maybe she can have it, but she can't come without permission. I can't visualize any circumstance where she can just go from her house to your house and open the door without letting you know she's coming, without ringing the doorbell first. I think it's very not good if you don't have safety. Now, the issue is you're saying your husband says, well, she's a widow and let her do and whatever. No. He needs to be convinced. So let me segue into how the conversation, the ideal way for the conversation to go with your husband. So here's the thing. What's that thing called? Walk softly and carry a big stick, whatever. like, and
Sounds like Moses. No.
oh, no, I think it was it was a president. I'm good blinking. Okay, whatever. But when the biggest power in the world is when you have a lot of power but don't show it. So if you come in, because the Torah is so on your side, and ladies, you have to understand, you have to own that permission to take what is rightfully yours, being the number one priority and the number one, what you say goes. You want fish, you're having fish. She wants spaghetti, I'm sorry, okay? You're having fish. And your husband has to know that. So, but everything is on your side on this. So if you come in, you don't need to come in guns blazing and say, see, look at this, Pasa, this says that you have to do exactly, no, it's not necessary. You've got all the power. Now you can be extremely generous in how you approach him. So it will go something like this. First of all, make sure he's well fed. Make sure he's well rested. Don't do this in a time when you're stressed and you're fighting about something else and then you plop this in the middle of it. Really, really time this well. We have a lot of classes, a lot of shows on timing and communication. Watch a couple of those maybe before you do this, but this is a very crucial and important conversation to have. And when you say, so now you've got them fed, you've got them rested, whatever, you're fed and rested and you're not in a bad mood, and you sit them down and you say, listen, I have an issue I want to discuss with you. I don't want to make you defensive. I don't want to get in a fight about this. I want to get clarity. And that is this. It's meant to be that I am your number one priority. You're my number one priority for sure by a million miles, okay? And I know I don't show it all the time. I try, but at least I know in my brain that you're supposed to be my number one priority. And if I have soup, I'm going to serve you before my own father, before my own mother, before anyone on the planet Earth. If the president of the United States was sitting at my table, I would serve you first. You're my priority. So the issue that I wanted to discuss with you is I'm supposed to be your priority over your mom and over your dad and over anybody else and over everything. I'm supposed to be your number one priority. But so many times we get to these issues that maybe because you're such a good-hearted person that you want to follow the dictate to the 10 commandments, honor thy father and mother or whatever. But this actually supersedes, putting me first, actually it supersedes that. It's more important. Cleaving to your wife is more important than taking care of your parents. And if we were in an airplane going down and I had one gas mask for myself and one for you and one for your father, it would be, I would give it to you or my father, whatever. These are really crucial things that you have to know as a wife. I don't know if I'd rattle all of this off to him. Then he starts arguing and looking things up and whatever. But I'm just saying, I'm just giving you the strength needed to be able to speak with him with a genuine heart and say, can you please tell me, what do you think we can do to make this more active in our life, more real, because for instance, you could say giving really exact examples is really helpful because guys can it all seems airy-fairy other than that. So talking about the trees and actually what happened is usually very good, unless you know your husband well enough to know that's just going to make him defensive. And in which case I'll share with you some other tactics. But basically to say, for instance, like the other day, we were all sitting around the living room and, Sarah came out with a pink dress or whatever, and I loved it. And your mom said, oh, Sarah, go put the blue one on, and I was kind of disappointed because I, spent extra money on that pink dress or whatever. And when she said it and Sarah was like, oh, okay. And your husband said, gave her a look like, you better do what Bubby says, you better listen to your grandmother, and she went and marched off and changed her dress. It wasn't just that Sarah, the interaction with Sarah and my relationship with my daughter, but it was also, you're meant to cleave to your wife. And the right thing to do there is to say, listen, whatever the wife name is, mom, my wife likes that one. Let's go with the pink one. Sarah, you're wearing the pink one. I mean, he's so back you up, and so I said, I didn't know what to do. And, but it hurt my feelings because it felt like, I don't have a say to my own husband. and I need you to be backing me up. And we have a Masorah, that a tradition that, and God said, now you know your own husband better than I do, so you know what is going to set his defenses up and what he'll be able to hear. But if you show him the pasuk, it's in Genesis. If you show him that pasuk and say, so how are we going to make this better? How are we going to fix this? And let him talk, and he'll say, well, I think you're being picky, and so come on, it's a dress, who cares? And say, it has nothing to do with the dress. It has nothing to do with these little incidents. It has to do with me feeling like you're cleaving to me, like I'm your number one priority. If I don't feel that, I'm defensive around your mother-in-law. I don't like having her around. I feel like there's a fight. You need to tell your mom, you had your turn. This lady whose mother-in-law is telling her how to raise her own kids. The husband needs to step in and say, Ma, you had your turn. It's my wife's turn. She wants the kid to go outside with no sweater on. She wants the pink dress. It's her turn, please, and you can coach your husband in how to say it nicely. Say, look, I know that you're mother-in-law, and I know she gets defensive. You're better off writing her a little bit letter in it, or you're better off taking her to dinner, whatever, saying all kinds of compliments and nice things to her, and then tossing in this, oh, by the way, please, be more respectful of my wife's child rearing practices. So now I'm going to take questions. Okay. So
I'll tell you the questions, because I'm having this back and forth thread with a few Instagram people. So Instagram, F18 said, I would serve my father first, and he would say, serve your husband first.
I love your father. He's yummy. He's creating a bonding. And if you're a father-in-law or mother-in-law, take lesson from that girl's father. Tell your father he's awesome. Okay, good.
Yeah,
okay.
Sephora Birnbaum said, thank you for bringing this up. It just came up this past Shabbos.
Wow.
So
what? Tell us what. Send
the one about who to serve first.
Oh, wow.
Meaning,
Wow.
like,
Okay.
That's a very common thing when you have both your in-laws or your parents at your house.
Yeah. I mean, after a few years of, married or whatever, I mean, if you've been doing it wrong, just say, oh, I just learned a new thing. I'm supposed to serve my husband first. Hope you don't mind, Dad. Love you. But, or you can make a big joke out of it. If it's going to insult anybody or hurt anybody's feelings, you can make a big joke and do what Sarit did, which is say, okay, wait a second. Okay. The one kid, Betsy, come in and, put okay, 1, 2, 3, both put your suits down at the same time. 1, 2, 3, boom.
Of all the kids serving the mother-in-law, the father.
There you go. Make it, you can get lighthearted about it, but everybody should know the right thing is that you serve your husband first. Now, maybe in your home, the husband serves the soup. Okay. So then it's a whole thing. He should serve you first before the in-laws. But there is, just so you know, and I get all these big, I don't want to get into the sexist, what's right, what's whatever. There is something about a woman serving her husband, particularly soup, that, there's something about it. So there's a special bracha in whatever. And actually, I don't even, someone writes me in and asks me for the source. I don't know what the source is, but I heard it somewhere over the last couple of decades. And so there's something in there. Okay. So, okay, good. What else? And then
and then actually Debbie from Facebook said, she needs to introduce you to the Persian mother-in-laws.
Why?
Persian mother-in-laws are like, they feel comfortable. They want to love you and be in your house. And you're like, okay, you can't really say much, but I guess.
Right. And there's a special bond between Persian mother-in-laws and their sons also that is a little bit of different flavor than in whatever. And for that thing, that now the conversation between you and your husband becomes even that more important. And you need to say, listen, if I were doing it because I'm selfish, or whatever, that would be one thing. It would still be valid, okay? I would still have a right to say this to you, but it's not my selfishness that's sourcing it. It's what is going to make the best relationship between me and your mother, and the best relationship between me and you with no conflict, because we're doing it the way the Torah says, which is that you cleave to me. And when you're speaking with your Sephardic husband, there's a way to say, listen, I love you more than life itself. Okay, I love you so deeply. I want to make you happy. I feel like I was born to take care of you and love you. He was also born to take care of you. So, but I was born. But get this in your kishkas, in your what do you call it? What are kishkas? What the heck are kishkas? In your soul, in your innards,
In your gut.
in your gut. Well, gut is icky. Guts, but anyway, in your
It's like you feel it in the gut, in the pit of your stomach. It's like
in your soul, you're just feeling that, and work that up so that you can express it in a genuine way from your heart to your husband's heart and say, I love you more than anything. We have to figure this out. We have to learn how to work this out so that I don't, we don't have these conflicts and this feeling I feel when your mother-in-law kind of takes my role and usurps my power, and I feel conflicted, and I shouldn't, because I should be number one. Now, some women say, when their husband fights with their mother, with his mother, they feel, oh, good. Now I'm, now he gets me. Now he's on my side, because there's this natural competition that it can be avoided if the husband puts her first. But there's this natural. So when the husband fights with his mother, she's like, okay, good. So good. Now he's sort of more mine. He's more mine because there's a conflict there. Here's the problem with that wrong thinking. We know that when it's said that when Isaac, when Rivka inherited from Sarah, in other words, the relationship that he had with his mom, okay, carried over to her with the candle staying and the challah staying fresh and the Shekhinah being in the home. Whatever relationship your husband has with his mother, when she is nifter, when she dies, you will inherit whatever that relationship was. So if he has a beautiful relationship with her, you will inherit that beautiful relationship, just like Rivka and Mena do. If they are contentious, that's what you'll inherit. And this isn't Leah Richheimer's great idea. This is actual chazal. This is our sources. This is a 3,000-year-old tradition, and it gives us pause to think about when your husband is fighting with his mother-in-law. That's not a win-win. That's not a win for you, because eventually that's what you're going to inherit. So here's what you need to do. You need to be able to have your husband put you first so that you can be generous with your mother-in-law, just as I talked about. Okay, now you can have spaghetti because, your husband puts you first. He's not siding with her and you're not fighting this battle, okay? So if he does that, then you can be generous with your mother-in-law, and you can foster them having a better relationship, which is only going to be in your benefit. Okay, good. Let's go to the next question.
So actually, before you go to the next question, Elaine 87 from Instagram says, what if the husband doesn't want his wife to serve him the food first?
Why? Ask her why.
Okay, Elaine, if you can just
and I'm going to guess why is that he thinks, equality, or feed the kids, get the kids their food first, or it's because of mother-in-law, father, he wants to do it, the parent. If he doesn't want it, you have to look at why. I guess it's hard to answer without knowing why. Is she answering that? Let's see.
Yeah, well, I'm waiting for that.
Okay.
I guess even if that, maybe it's just the fact that he's like, if his father's there, he wants, like my husband, when my in-laws come, my husband wants my father-in-law to sit at the head of the table at his feet, and his mother to sit at the other head. I happen not to sit at the other head. I sit across from, like next to my husband on the side. Right. So my husband gives up his seat, and he feels totally not okay sitting at the head of the table while his father's there.
I hear that.
You know what I'm saying? So maybe her husband.
And that could be a shaila, to a rabbi about who should be sitting where, but it's fine if it's working, I guess. I don't know the answer to that, but the issue is, I think still for this lady who asked the question, I'm blanking the name. You should still attempt.
Oh, okay. She answered.
I was gonna. Okay, let me say this.
By the way, because none of those even that we came up with, she said because he likes to take what he likes himself. He's picky with his food. He doesn't want to be.
Oh, I see. Okay, fine. What I was going to say though is that hold on a second. What was I going to say? If it was because he wanted to honor his father, let's just say if that was the reason, she should still make an attempt to serve her husband and go through the formality and the cute drama of him saying, give daddy first. You know what I'm saying? Like it's still her putting him first and honoring him first. So if your husband likes to serve himself, which many, many men do, it's not an unusual thing and it's fine. Anything that can be served to him, that would give you pleasure to serve to him? Like, for instance, a brownie, like, is he really going to, I mean, maybe he cares, he wants the edge, the edge, who doesn't, right? Who has to eat the middle ones with no crusty edge? Like, hello, okay, fine, I'm gluten-free, so this is, I have a special affinity for my memory of brownies. No, you can have actually good gluten-free ones. If anyone has a good recipe for brownies, send it. Okay, for gluten-free. Anyway, so he, anything you can serve to him, like the brownie, know that he likes the corner, give him the corner. If you can, it's again, there's something mystical about it that I don't really quite understand, but it's real. Okay, go ahead, Sarit.
Okay, so also somebody asked, Mindy 120 asks, can you elaborate about how to bring it up with your husband? Whenever I bring this up, he claims I'm trying to control him.
Fantastic. Great question. Okay, so yeah. So whenever she brings it up, her husband says you're trying to control her. So I think on a situation like that, it could be that you were bringing it up in a way that made him feel controlling. So I wonder if you say, listen, I have an issue. I don't feel confident in my ability to communicate it with you in a way that won't make you feel badly or defensive. I don't want something that makes you feel badly when I bring this up, or to feel defensive. The issue is that if you are having a conversation with him where he's always defensive every time you do it, try different things. Try writing him a letter. I wouldn't make this big, huge, heavy thing, because nobody likes that. If he brought something to you like, oh, this is really, you don't understand me, and you don't, I feel like I can't communicate with you. If you make it big, heavy, nobody's going to want to hear that. You wouldn't want to hear it from him. So, but if you say, listen, I ask his help. I don't know what to do here. It's very clear that, what the Torah says about it. And I know it's hard for you and whatever, and maybe we should go see a Rav about it. Go sit down with a counselor, a therapist, or something like that. Again, you want to pick your battles. So, but this is really crucial. It's crucial to a woman feeling comfortable in her own home. This is no joke. If the husband is putting his mother or father in front of her, or brother or somebody else in front of her opinions and her choices in life, and he's taking other people's opinions over her, that's actually wrong, what he's doing. So again, if I was having the men wouldn't even listen to me anyway. They wouldn't listen to a rabbi telling this is what you need to do. I mean, maybe if it was drilled in their head, and maybe you can drill it into your son's heads, as nicely as you can. But I'm talking to the wives. I'm talking to the women. You got this. You really can do this. You just have to do it from your heart. You have to do it with a lot of vulnerability. You have to do it with a lot of apology and saying, I'm sorry. And I'm sorry in that, like, I'm sorry to bring this up and to make this an important topic, but I'm not the one who's making an important topic. God made this important topic. God says this is how it needs to be. And so I just realized, and sometimes some people I've talked to, they've been married 25 years and their mother-in-law is, still making their life very difficult, and even still you can sit down and say, listen, I just learned something very, very crystal clear that, I'm supposed to be this way. I don't want to make you feel bad for the 25 years. I don't want to, I'm not trying to hate on you. I'm not trying to take a hammer. I'm not trying to be mean. I'm trying to fix things for the future. I want us to be closer. And this is said in many sources, that the closeness of a husband to the wife can be impinged by a mother-in-law, by in-laws. And someone recently told me, a big person told me that a lot of marriages, huge amount of marriages are broken up by in-laws interfering in their kids' life. And that is so tragic. It's so tragic. And it's because the women are not claiming what's rightfully theirs in a kindly way. Okay, we have time for one quick last question. Sarit, go ahead.
Okay, so the next one is, my mother-in-law enjoys taking my children to the ice cream store. I think my children eat way too much junk, and I dislike that this is how she bonds with them. And of course, then she brings them home all sugared up. Neither she nor my husband understand my objection. What can I do?
Wow. Okay. So fine. So basically the mother-in-law is sugaring them up. So you need to separate the difference between is what's bothering you sugaring them up, or is bothering you that your mother-in-law and your husband aren't listening to you, that you don't have a voice in raising your own children. If it's the sugaring them up, you have to be a little bit, okay, whatever, there's a unique pleasure for a grandmother to sugar up her kids. Okay. So I'd go easy on that, not nuts, but a little easy on it. If it's because you have very strict diets for your kids and your mother-in-law and your husband isn't listening to you, your husband needs to be the one who speaks to your mother-in-law, not you. You don't need that kind of conflict and stress in your life. You just need to say, listen, this is an thing I'm upset about. That mom's giving them the mother-in-law's giving them too much sugar and bringing them home, and then they're bouncing off the walls and not going to sleep, and it's a real problem for me. And your husband's like, oh, come on, it's only once a month, or it's only once a week, or it's only once a year. Come on, what's the big deal? No, he's not allowed to say that. He can say that, but he needs to know that it goes the way you want it to go. End of story. And even if he's reluctant to tell his mother-in-law, and even if he's reluctant to put his foot down, that's his job. He's got to do that out of loyalty to you. And I'll end with one story. I had a couple, and they were about to get engaged, and they were going to the engagement thing, and the daughter was feeling very, very nervous. The person who's going to get engaged, she was a little bit of a nervous person. We all are, but she wasn't quite ready. So let's say the thing started at 6 o'clock, the event. Everybody showed up there, and he was very, very close with his mom, and his mom kept texting, and she said, I just need to go talk with my soon-to-be fiance Hassan. And so they went off to a park, and they sat on a bench for 2 hours. The mother-in-law kept texting and whatever, and where are you, and what's going on, and there are people here, and what's happening. And maybe it wasn't 2 hours. That would have been insane. It would have been already over. It was a very long time. So after about 10 minutes of her texting and calling and whatever, the son texted her and said, Mom, I need absolute radio silence right now. Please do not talk. I will let you know what's going on. And he sat there and listened to her and listened to her and listened to her. She finally got comfortable, and then they showed up. She felt horrible. And you know what the answer to her is? She, in that moment, it was ideal, and maybe she should have been more sure before they had planned this a big event or whatever. It's water under the bridge. But what she did is she established that the guy who she was feeling a little bit insecure with and a little bit not sure about, she established that she was more important to him than anybody else in his family. Okay? That strength gave her the strength to go through the marriage and to go forward. I know her still, and have a beautiful, beautiful relationship, because she felt entitled to take that for herself, to make herself comfortable. So for any of the end of this, the bottom line of this is to make you feel entitled to, it's not demand. What's the word I'm looking for? Oh, you're back. Sarit, you're back. Yay. I missed you, Sarit. But we can't hear you still. Okay, whatever. Is that you have that right. You have that right to be to get this. Now the question is, how gently and softly can you do it and propose it to your husband so it becomes a reality in your life? I gave you some tips on it. You got to know your husband. You have to think back on anything that you ever convinced your husband of that actually worked. You wanted to go on this vacation. He kept saying, no, 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 no. And then you said, wherever you want to go, dear. And then he says, okay, let's go there where you wanted. Whatever worked in the past, examine that, analyze it, try and figure out what's going to work with your husband, because this is very crucial to your happiness, to your happiness with your in-laws, and most importantly, to the shalom bayis, the peace in your own home. Okay, this is Leah Richheimer. We'll see you next time. Thank you very much for joining us. And if you have further mother-in-law questions, you can send them in and we'll try and answer them. Sarit said we got a ton of emails, and we might have to do another mother-in-law too. I don't know. We'll see. Oh, now something else is happening.
Yeah, we have a few. We have a bunch more.
A bunch more there. Yeah, we have a bunch that we didn't cover here. So maybe we'll do that at a future date. If you send in more, then that will convince us more that it's a topic people want more information about. But thank you very much for joining us. This is Leah Richheimer for the Ladies Talk Show, and we'll see you next time. Here's the thing, ladies. If you don't subscribe, you may miss out and you're going to miss some great content. So you need to either like us or follow us on Instagram, follow us on Facebook, on Torah Anytime, on YouTube, or go right to our website, www.ladiestalkshow.com, and fill in a subscription button. And then you'll get every week an update on exactly what's happening. And if you do that, oh, by the way, if you subscribe on our website, you also get 10 tips to have a great relationship. Don't miss it. And don't forget to subscribe. Thanks a lot.